is why do Muslims not say the Pledge of Allegiance? Me personally, I don't pledge of allegiance to anything but God. So it's not a disrespect to America or the Americans in pledging the allegiance to the flag, but it's just something that I don't believe in. I can't speak for the rest of the Muslims as my voice is mine and mine alone, so I'm not sure about why the rest of the Muslims wouldn't do it. Hold on, one right here.
But the Pledge of Allegiance does detail specifically about God. Right?
God, yes, yes. You're right. But even in court, let me give you an example. If in court, when they say put your hand on the Bible and swear by God, which God am I swearing by? Am I swearing by, when I pledge of allegiance to the flag and it says to pledge of allegiance to God, is that Allah that I'm pledging allegiance to? Is that understood to be another God? I'm not sure. So, like for instance, one time I went to court, I said, I won't pledge of allegiance on the Bible. I won't swear by the Bible, but I'll swear on my own accord that I'll tell the truth, basically, because I'm not sure what God we're talking about. And I have to be very specific, me personally, as far as who I'm going to go ahead and swear in whose name I'm going to swear, which if I'm going to swear, I'm going to swear in the name of Allah, the God in whom I believe.
About that same thing.
Sure.
I mean, as well as Christianity, we understand that America was founded on Christianity. So, like, don't you guys, like, also believe, like,
Was it?
do believe on tolerance of other people's beliefs? Like, what do you
But America wasn't founded on Christianity. According to the Constitution, according to the governmental laws, there's a separation between church and state. So there is no such thing as the American society being founded upon any religion. There's a separation between church and state, and the two are not supposed to be combined together.
One, that's also why it doesn't specify which God you're pledging allegiance to or which God, whichever you choose. Now, the book may be in question, that's fine, but in God we trust, it doesn't say in the Christian God we trust.
Again, it's,
Versus in the Muslim God.
and I understand,
In the
but
Muslim
again,
community, is there a Catholics have priests, Buddhists have monks, is there a religious hierarchy?
there is our imam, basically. So our imam is our leader. And just to, you're right. He says that it says in God we trust, and you can say in God that I can say in God I trust in Allah and things of this nature. Again, it's just a personal choice, and everybody has that right to choose their personal beliefs and what they want to do. And again, we should respect that as being people who are in that melting pot. That we shouldn't expect others to do what we do because we want them to be like us, but rather we should expect that they are who they are for who they are. As far as a hierarchy in Islam, like the Catholics, there is no hierarchy like the Catholics per se. As you know, you get to Rome and they've got and they're one thing. But here we have a spiritual leader. He's called the Imam, which generally in Arabic, in English, it means leader basically. So we do have an Imam here. Most masjids have Imams, and they're the ones who lead the community.
From like prayers that you have to do every day, do you actually have specific like rites of passage, like Judas do when they turn 13 or going into adulthood?
No, not that I'm aware of. There's no specific rites of passage. A child just when they reach the age of puberty, then they're obligated to now become responsible adults for themselves, as we believe that when they reach the age of puberty, that the pen begins to write on them, meaning that at that moment they're held accountable for everything that they do. So their sins now begin to get recorded. So we just try to educate them and bring them up so that when they become those mature men and women, that now they begin to worship on their own, that they begin to pray and supplicate and do the things that are necessary and required of them within the religion of Islam.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
You said that you're supposed to obey your rulers even if it's conflicting with the Quran. So why can't you swear on the Bible if that's the case?
Again, this is now obedience. This is a principle in Islam. He said, and it's a good question. It's a great question actually. He said, we stated in the lecture that we're supposed to obey our rulers. He said, so why can't you swear on the Bible if this is something that is done here in this country out of obedience? There's a principle in Islam. The principle is we obey as long as we do not disobey Allah. If it's in anything that we declare that is in disobedience to Allah, in disobedience to the religion, then in that case we don't do it. So for instance, my mother, she's not a Muslim. My father, he's not a Muslim. Parents in Islam have a high standard. Allah tells us in the Quran, you're not to say uff to them. You're supposed to respect them and do whatever they tell you to do. Okay? But now if my mother and my father tell me there's the statue, Allah tells you you have to respect me and do what I tell you, go worship the statue. Now in that case, because it's in disobedience to my Lord, and in disobedience to, and it doesn't fall in line with what I believe, then in that thing, I tell my parent, I love you mom, I love you dad, but I can't worship this statue.
Islam started as a small community, correct? After Muhammad's death, it grew, and it became larger and more powerful. I believe it expanded, through word of mouth and etc. first. But when it hit North Africa, and when it spread through there and into Spain, wasn't it a more violent conquest? I'm just wondering what the shift was between those. Why did it start out, in the Middle East as consensual, spread by word of mouth, people coming to Islam, and it was spread by the sword later? What was the shift there, and how did it change?
Again, I'm not a scholar, nor am I a historical. My major is not history, so I wouldn't be able to answer that question. This question basically was asking that Islam in the beginning, supposedly after the Prophet Muhammad, it's spread by the word and word of mouth, which is correct. And from what I know and what I believe is that Islam spread this way up to today. That it was because of the good actions and the good moral character and the great teachings that our book possesses, that this is why people became Muslim. We don't believe that anybody became Muslim by the sword. But as far as when they went into North Africa and when they went into Spain and things of this nature, that is not my specialty, so I wouldn't be able to answer that question. I apologize. In the back? You.
What are some important artifacts? Obviously there are no pictures or anything to view. Is there anything that we might see of great importance that represents Allah or, any of the beliefs?
Artifacts. As far as artifacts, there's nothing of great importance to us.
And why is that?
Huh?
And why is that?
Like I said, pictures and statues and these type of articles, they're not of great importance. They are just what they are. It's a picture. I don't worship it. We don't pray towards it. So they don't carry great meaning in my life. If I have it, great. It may be used as a decoration in my home. Do I believe it's going to do anything for me, or protecting me, or healing me, or that my life is going to be better because of it? No, not at all. So whether we have them or we don't have them, it's the same to us. The one that was in the front?
I just didn't catch it. When you were telling us about how you converted,
Yeah.
you said that you joined the gang, like the Zulu Nation. Was that your initial link to Islam then?
Yes, that was my initial link to Islam. When I entered the gang, Zulu Nation, like I said, we were in the gang for about a month or so, and then we met this other gentleman who was also of Puerto Rican descent. I'm Puerto Rican, who came home from jail. He had accepted Islam in jail. He took us to his home. He began to teach us about the book of Allah, the Quran. He taught us about the Prophet Muhammad. He gave us some videos on the life of Muhammad. He gave us some other books regarding the life of Muhammad. And one book in particular that he gave us was called At-Tawheed, which was based on the oneness of God. And that was the stepping stone for me towards entering the fold of Islam. And it was a process after that. I didn't enter right away. It was a slow process for me, because even coming out of living a life, the way I was living life, it was a big change. So for instance, when I did accept Islam, one of the things I told them was, don't tell me how to live. I don't want to hear it. I live as I want. I do what I want, when I want, how I want. That was my mentality at the time. I said, I'm going to accept the religion of Islam because I believe in the concept of one God, but I'm going to be who I am and do what I want to do. It wasn't until maybe 6 months, 7 months later that I had a moment. I was sitting on my porch with some friends, drinking and smoking some marijuana, and I began to think of the story of Abraham in our book. How when he was with the polytheists, he was trying to show them who was God. So the sun came up and he said, "This is my God." When the moon came and replaced the sun, he said, "Verily, the sun is weak and it can't be my Lord, so the moon must be my God." When the day came back and overtook the night, he said, "Verily, that moon and the night was weak," and so on and so forth. Proving to them at the end of the story, he said, "Verily, my God is the one who created all of these things." So I was sitting on the porch that night. I'm looking into the stars. I'm looking at the moon. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm drinking and smoking, and it hit me. And I said, if I do not change and I die upon this, I'm going to be in trouble. At that point, I told my friends, "Get up, get out." They said, "Oh, why are you acting like that?" I said, "Get up, get out." So they got up, they got out, and I knew me personally, this is me personally, that I had to disconnect myself from them for that time being. So I cut all of my relationships with my friends. I removed myself from them, and that allowed me to then begin to practice my religion. I didn't have the evil vices calling me and drinking and smoking and doing bad things, and that's what helped me propel to where I am today in life.
Forgive my ignorance, but I don't know what the terminology is. What's in the box in Mecca that everyone like bows to?
The box, the cube.
The cube.
The cube. It's called the Kaaba, which means cube. This is the way we face when we pray, the cube. In the cube itself, it is empty. There is nothing there. Pre-Islamic era, they used to host the gods inside the cube. They used to have 365 gods in that box. When Islam came and Islam finally, the conquest of Mecca took place, the Prophet, one of the first things he did was get rid of the idols and took the idols out the box. We don't worship the cube. It's just the direction in which we pray. And we believe that that cube was initially built by the Prophet Abraham and his son, Ismail.
In Islam, what's the significance of the mosque in Jerusalem, the Dome on the Rock?
The mosque in Jerusalem. The mosque in Jerusalem is important to us. We believe that it was built by Prophet Isaac. So it plays a great importance within the line of prophets. Also Suleiman or Solomon was known to supposedly have rebuilt it. The Prophet also told us that every prayer inside of the mosque there, Al-Aqsa, is worth 500 prayers. So one prayer is worth 500 in that mosque. As well as like the Prophet's mosque itself, he tells us that one prayer in his mosque is worth 1,000. The mosque in Mecca, the holy mosque, he told us that 100,000 prayers for one prayer in the holy mosque of Mecca. So those three mosques are of great significance and importance to us as Muslims.
Are lay people or secular people allowed to come in to observe or participate?
Are lay people and secular people allowed to come in to participate or watch the service? Absolutely. We have people who come here all the time for our Friday prayers. We have people who come here during our regular prayers who want to see, hey, I was in the area, I want to see how you guys pray. I seen you guys building that big building over there. It drew my interest. What are you guys doing? What do you guys do here? Our doors are open. We have an open door policy. Everybody's free and welcome to come here at whatever time they want. And even with our school here, which is an Islamic school, I think 2 years ago, we actually had some non-Muslim children who attended our school as well. So it's open.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect with this question, but
No, never.
from my understanding, it seems that Islam seems to embrace, scientific materials, especially physics and astrophysics and such. But what is the view of like scientific materialism within Islam?
Science in Islam does believe in scientific facts. We believe that, like the Prophet Muhammad told us about the creation of a child from the clot, the hanging clot all the way through. And this was one of the major proofs that the Quran is true. It has scientific facts within the Quran itself that have been proven centuries later. So there is that in between that belief that science and the Quran do kind of go hand in hand.